friend. It is so good to have you here today. Welcome back. Tell me something. Have you ever failed in front of everyone you wanted to impress? Not a quiet failure. Not a mistake nobody noticed. The kind of failure that happens in front of millions of people. The kind that gets replayed, dissected, turned into a headline by the next morning. Most of us spend our whole lives trying to avoid that moment. But there was one man who lived through it. The worst version of it anyone in his sport had ever seen. And somehow that moment became the beginning of his legend, not the end of it. His name was Ben Stokes. And by the end of this story, you may understand why millions of people stood up and cheered for him in the very same stadiums that once watched him fall apart. This is the story of Ben Stokes. Buzz. Before I tell you how this story ends, I need you to picture how it almost didn't begin at all. Kolkata, Eden Gardens, April 3rd, 2016. 66,000 people inside the stadium. Millions more watching around the world. One man is standing at the top of his bowling mark, holding the ball, holding the game, holding everything. 4 balls later, that same man is sitting alone in the middle of the ground, head down, hands on his knees, the crowd roaring, but not for him. 4 sixes, 4 balls, 1 bowler. That image went around the world in minutes. Newspapers printed it the next morning. Pundits picked it apart for weeks. A nation that had believed, for one over, that the trophy was already theirs, watched it disappear in 18 seconds. Pause. But here is the thing nobody understood that night. That moment, that humiliation, that silence, that walk back to the dressing room with 66,000 people watching was not the end of a story. It was the beginning of one. Because the man sitting in the middle of that ground would, 3 years later, become the single greatest match winner his sport had ever produced. He would win a World Cup final so impossible that commentators ran out of words to describe it. He would play an innings so defiant that opposition players described it as watching someone refuse to accept reality. And he would do it again and again. This is the story of how the most humiliated man in cricket became its greatest legend. This is the story of Ben Stokes. Stay with me. Because this is not just about cricket, it's about what you do after the worst moment of your life. Let's go back. Long before Eden Gardens. Long before any of this. Christchurch, New Zealand, 1991. Ben Stokes was born into a sporting house. His father, Ged Stokes, was a rugby league player and coach. A tough, physical, no excuses kind of man who had spent his life on rugby fields, not cricket pitches. By every expectation, Ben should have grown up chasing his father's sport. But cricket found him anyway, the way it finds boys all over the cricketing world. Through boredom, through a bat in his hands, through a feeling he couldn't yet explain. Then, when Ben was 12, everything changed. His father got a coaching job in England, a small rugby league club in a town called Courtroom, deep in the north of the country. The family packed up their entire life in New Zealand and moved to the other side of the planet. Imagine being 12 years old, leaving the only home you've known, landing in a cold, gray English town with an accent that marks you out the second you open your mouth. Ben didn't fit in easily. He was the New Zealand kid, too sporty for some groups, too foreign for others, but the cricket club accepted him, and he never left. At 15, he was already playing against grown men and holding his own. At 16, he left school with one qualification, just one. And then leaving 16-year-old Ben behind, alone, in England, chasing a dream that had no guarantee attached to it. He joined Durham. He played with an aggression that was different from the textbook English style. More instinct, more risk, more why not than why. It was the kind of cricket that made selectors nervous and crowds lean forward. By 2013, that aggression had earned him a Test debut for England in the Ashes and a century on debut in Perth against Australia in his very first Test innings. The selectors knew this boy was different, but different cuts both ways, and 3 years later, that same fearless, instinctive nature would put him in the worst position of his career. Live on the world's biggest stage. Eden Gardens, Kolkata, April 3rd, 2016. England had reached the final of the World T20 against the West Indies. They had Joe Root, who had just struck a brilliant 54. They had bowled the West Indies into a corner. With 1 over left, the West Indies needed 19 runs to win. 19 runs, 6 balls. It should have been England's title. Ewan Morgan, England's captain, gave the ball to Ben Stokes. It made sense. Stokes was the death overs specialist, the man you trusted with the pressure. At the other end stood Carlos Brathwaite, a 27-year-old all-rounder playing in only his 8th T20 international. Barely known outside the Caribbean. Marlon Samuels, the senior batsman watching from the non-striker's end, had one piece of advice for him. Swing for the hills. Ball 1. A length delivery, slightly down leg. Brathwaite swung. 6. The crowd stirred. Ball 2. Full, on middle and leg. Brathwaite shifted his weight, found room, and lifted it high over mid-wicket. 6. Now the stadium was on its feet. Ball 3. Stokes tried to adjust. Brathwaite didn't care where the ball was. He swung with everything he had. 6. And in that moment, the legendary commentator Ian Bishop said 4 words that would be replayed for years. Remember the name. Ball 4. 1 more swing, 1 more 6. Job done, with 2 balls still remaining. The West Indies had won the World Cup. Off 4 consecutive balls, bowled by Ben Stokes. Pause. Can you imagine that? You are the man your captain trusted with the most important over of the tournament. And in 18 seconds, you become the answer to a trivia question that will follow you for the rest of your career. Ben Stokes sat down on the Eden Gardens turf, alone. The cameras found him instantly. The English media did not show mercy. He was called a villain, a choke. The headline that would define him, at least for now. Nobody in that stadium, in that moment, could have imagined what was coming next. Because before Ben Stokes could become a legend, he had to fall even further. Here is something you might not know. The lowest moment of Ben Stokes' career wasn't actually that night in Kolkata. It came a year later, September 2017, Bristol, outside a nightclub after midnight. Ben Stokes is involved in a street altercation. The footage goes public. He is arrested. This wasn't a sporting failure anymore. This was his name on every front page in the country, for all the wrong reasons. He was stripped of his vice-captaincy, banned from playing for England, dropped by his sponsors. England toured Australia for the Ashes without him, and lost 4-0. For almost a year, Ben Stokes was suspended in uncertainty, waiting for a criminal trial, not knowing if he had a cricket career left to come back to. Pause. You have to ask yourself, what does it feel like to be 26 years old, supposedly in the prime of your career, and have everything just Stop. In August 2018, the trial concluded. Not guilty. He walked out of that courtroom and reportedly told himself 4 words: "I will show them." But here's the part of the story that matters more than the verdict itself. The Bristol incident didn't just threaten his career. It forced Ben Stokes to confront something about himself. The same fearless, instinctive nature that made him brilliant on the cricket field had, off the field, nearly destroyed everything he'd built. He had 2 choices. Let that anger define him, or channel it into something else entirely. He chose to channel it. Every ounce of frustration, embarrassment, and fury from Bristol, from Eden Gardens, from years of being doubted. Ben Stokes started pouring it directly into his cricket, and the world was about to watch what that looked like. July 14, 2019, Lord's Cricket Ground, the Cricket World Cup final, England versus New Zealand. England had never won this trophy. Not once, in 44 years of trying. The match was a classic from the first ball. New Zealand posted 241. England's chase wobbled, stumbled, and somehow arrived at the final over needing 15 runs to win, with 2 wickets in hand. And there, at the crease, was Ben Stokes, the man they had written off 3 years earlier. With 3 balls remaining, England needed 9 runs. Stokes swung hard at a length delivery. The ball hit the toe of his bat, deflected off his body as he dived for the crease, and rolled away to the boundary. 4 runs, pure chance, pure chaos. Nobody could have planned that deflection, but it was enough. England tied the match. A super over, 3 balls aside. Stokes walked out again, knowing the entire country was watching, knowing that 3 years ago, this same country had called him a villain. England scored 15 in the super over. New Zealand needed 16. The very last ball, Martin Guptill ran for the second run that would win it. Jos Buttler took the throw and broke the stumps. Run out. England had won the World Cup for the first time in 44 years. Ben Stokes fell onto his back on the Lord's outfield, staring up at the sky, and cried. Not just from joy, from everything. From Bristol, from the trial, from Eden Gardens, from every voice that had called him finished. It all came out in that one moment, lying in the grass at Lord's. The boy who had been the villain in Kolkata had just become England's hero at Lord's. 3 weeks later, Ben Stokes proved that Lord's wasn't a miracle. It was who he had become. Headingley, the Ashes. England needed 359 to win against Australia, and had collapsed to their last wicket. At the crease, Ben Stokes. At the other end, Jack Leach, a number 11 batsman with exactly one job: survive. Stokes simply decided he was not going to lose. Ball by ball, 6 by 6. He dragged England toward a target that no team had any business reaching. You could see it on the Australian players' faces, that creeping, helpless realization that they were no longer playing against a team. They were playing against one man who had decided the outcome before the over had even started. The final ball, 1 run needed. Stokes found the gap and sent it to the boundary. England won by 1 wicket. Stokes finished on 135 not out against the best bowling attack in the world. Ian Botham, watching, said 3 words: "He is the one." Ben Stokes stood in the middle of Headingley with his arms wide, looking up, and in that pose was every ounce of everything he had carried since Eden Gardens. Nobody could stop him anymore, because he had already survived the thing that was supposed to destroy him. But Ben Stokes' story didn't end with 2 miracle matches. It evolved into something bigger. November 13th, 2022. Melbourne Cricket Ground. The T20 World Cup final. England versus Pakistan. The pressure was different this time. A low, difficult pitch, a tense chase of 138. And once again, Ben Stokes walking out when his team needed calm more than fireworks. He battled to 24 off 34 balls before the equation finally cracked open. He finished unbeaten on 52, guiding England home by 5 wickets with an over to spare. England became the first men's team in history to hold both the 50-over World Cup and the T20 World Cup at the same time. 3 years after Lord's, 6 years after Eden Gardens, the man once humiliated by 4 sixes had now delivered match-winning innings in 2 different World Cup finals. But Ben Stokes' biggest transformation wasn't with the bat. It was as a leader. In 2022, he was named England's Test captain. Alongside new coach Brendan McCullum, he built something the sport had never seen before. A style that came to be known as Bazball. Fearless, relentless, attack in every situation. Never play for the draw. Trust your players completely. It worked. England started winning test matches at a pace nobody had predicted, playing cricket that felt less like a careful chess match and more like a declaration. We are not afraid of losing. A year earlier, in 2021, Stokes had walked away from the game entirely for a period, citing the mental and physical toll of playing every format, every series, every year, without pause. He spoke openly about panic attacks, about anxiety, about needing to step back. That honesty mattered. The toughest competitor in English cricket admitting he wasn't okay, and then coming back stronger, gave his leadership a different kind of weight. In 2022, he made another difficult call, retiring from ODI cricket, citing the physical and mental demands of playing all 3 formats at once. He would later return for the 2023 World Cup, proof that even his retirements were never quite final, because his relationship with this game was never simple. Let's go back to where we started. Eden Gardens, April 2016. A man sitting alone on the outfield, head down, while 66,000 people celebrate around him. That image once defined Ben Stokes. Today, it's barely remembered because everything that came after it rewrote the story completely. Talent got Ben Stokes into the England team. Talent gave him that century on Test debut. Talent made him dangerous enough to be trusted with the final over of a World Cup final. But talent didn't make him a legend. Character did. The choice to come back after Eden Gardens, the choice to rebuild after Bristol, the choice to admit publicly that he was struggling and to seek help instead of hiding it, the choice to walk back onto the field at Lord's and at Headingley and at the MCG. Every single time the moment demanded everything he had. In 2016, the world called this man a villain. In 2019, the same man gave England its first World Cup in 44 years, and then 3 weeks later played one of the greatest innings in the history of Test cricket. In 2022, he did it again. On a different continent, in a different format, with the same calm refusal to lose. Talent can give you a beginning, but it is character that decides how your story ends. My friend, I want to stop the story here and speak to you. The story of Ben Stokes was never really about 4 sixes or a World Cup final. or even cricket at all. It was about what a man does in the silence after everyone has stopped clapping for him. At 24, he sat alone on a cricket ground while a stadium celebrated someone else's victory. At 26, he stood in a courtroom, not knowing if he had a career left to return to, and, quietly, without announcing it to anyone, he made a decision. He would not let either moment be the last word on who he was. That decision is the thing that carried him through every over at Lord's, every ball at Headingley, every pressure-soaked run chase that followed. Not talent, not luck, a decision made once and then made again. Every single time the game demanded everything he had left. And here is what I want to leave with you tonight. Maybe you have your own Eden Gardens, a moment the world judged you for, a version of that day you still replay, even now. But that moment does not get to write the ending, only you do. Ben Stokes never asked anyone to forget what happened in 2016. He simply gave them something bigger to remember instead. Thank you for walking this journey with me tonight. If one moment from Ben Stokes' story stayed with you, tell me about it in the comments. I would love to read it. Goodbye for now.